Good morning. Welcome to First Word, coming to you from beautiful Linwood, Minnesota. This podcast is dedicated to reading and discussing the Bible together. The Bible is a book you can pick up for the first time and find life-changing truth. It's also a book you can study for the rest of your life and never exhaust its complexities. So whether this is your first time really studying the Bible or your 1,000th time, we strive at First Word to make the Bible understandable and interesting as we discover together what it says. My name is Dave Osterkamp, pastor at Linwood Covenant. Excited to be with you today. Let's dive in. Mark chapter 3 is where we are. We're going through the book of Mark together. And so we're going to read Mark chapter 3. Once again, Jesus goes to the lake. Many of us in Minnesota love the lake. Maybe you're near the ocean. You love to go to the ocean. Jesus, we'll see again, withdrew to the lake, and this is where we get this story in Mark 3. Jesus withdrew with his disciples to the lake, and a large crowd from Galilee followed. When they heard about all he was doing, many people came to him from Judea, Jerusalem, Idumea, and the regions across the Jordan and around Tyre and Sidon. Because of the crowd, he told his disciples to have a small boat ready for him to keep the people from crowding him. For he had healed many, so that those with diseases were pushing forward to touch him. Whenever the impure spirits saw him, they fell down before him and cried out, "You are the Son of God." But he gave them strict orders not to tell others about him. Jesus went up on a mountainside and called to him those he wanted, and they came to him. He appointed 12 that they might be with him and that he might send them out to preach, and to have authority to drive out demons. These are the 12 he appointed: Simon, to whom he gave the name Peter, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. To them he gave the name Boanerges, which means sons of thunder. Andrew, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James, son of Alphaeus, Thaddeus, Simon the Zealot, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. The word of the Lord for today, Mark chapter 3. An important theme for Mark, as we continue in this book, is people's response to Jesus. These questions, and in Mark 4, we're going to hear them quite loudly, but we've been talking about them. Do you have ears to hear? Do you have ears to hear what you want to hear, or do you have ears to hear what Jesus is actually saying? Do you have eyes to see what you want to see, or do you have eyes to see who Jesus actually is? So many ordinary people are coming to Jesus, so many that it says in Mark he needed to have an escape boat ready in fear that he might be crushed by the crowds. He needed to be able to get away. People now wanted to touch Jesus, believing that the power that he had, the authority he had, could be unleashed if you just touch him, so they were crowding around him. Meanwhile, yesterday we left the religious leaders making a plan to kill Jesus. So all these ordinary people, these outcasts, are coming to Jesus to get life, and the religious leaders who don't have the ears or the eyes to see are making a plan on how to end Jesus' life. Now in Mark chapter 3, Mark attributes illness to unclean spirits and not to punishment of sin, which was a common belief back then. And again, we see here in Mark chapter 3, as we read in these verses, that as these unclean spirits come out of people, they cry out, and they what is known, that you are the Son of God. And Jesus gives them strict orders not to tell others about him. And we've talked about this divine secret, there's a mystery going on. Do you see the mystery unfolding? Do you see who is walking amongst us? But we see this resurrection life that Jesus is about giving people wholeness and flourishing and their health and their strength back, that Jesus has come to make everything right, and one day he will do that for all people. And then Jesus goes up on this mountain in verse 13, and he called to those he wanted, and they came to him, and he appointed 12. Now, first of all, there were many people that followed Jesus, and there were many women that followed Jesus. And when Jesus called these 12 guys, everybody knew what he was doing, that he was making a very clear statement about the nation of Israel. A little history in Genesis and Exodus. The nation of Israel, God's people who were called to be a blessing to all the nations and would be through the life and ministry of Jesus, started with a man named Abraham and his wife Sarah. They had a son Isaac. Isaac married Rebekah. Isaac and Rebekah had Jacob and Esau. The lineage went through their second-born, Jacob. Jacob had 2 wives, Rachel and Leah, and Jacob had 12 sons and 1 daughter. And from his family there became 12 tribes of Israel. Jacob had Joseph, and Joseph got sold into slavery into Egypt. And eventually the whole nation was enslaved in Egypt for 400 years. And when they came out and they came into the promised land, they traced their lineage to these 12 sons, and they had 12 tribes of Israel. Very, very important. And when they went out of Egypt, their leader was Moses. And when they went into the promised land, the land that Jesus was now living in, their leader was Joshua, Yeshua. Yeshua, that means salvation. Jesus had the same name as Joshua. He was the new Moses, the new Joshua. Jesus, again, was making a very clear and powerful statement that I am the new Moses, the new Joshua. I have come to save. And the people, when he comes into Jerusalem the final time, will believe that you have come to save the nation of Israel. Like Egypt was defeated, you have come to defeat Rome. And Jesus said, no, you need to have eyes to see and ears to hear. I've come for a much bigger purpose. I've come to bring freedom and salvation and forgiveness for all peoples. But when he calls these 12 people, and especially in verse 15, when it says he went up on a mountain, that wasn't verse, let me see, I was pulling it up, verse 13. He says Jesus went up on a mountain and called to those he wanted. Up on the mountain is where God meets his people. It's a very common place to up on the mountain, especially in Exodus 19 and 20. So if you want to read further today, read Exodus 19 and 20. Up on the mountain, Moses met God, and he was given the 10 Commandments, and this new nation was birthed. The mountain is the normal setting for divine activity and revelation. The 12 that he called were very diverse people that were called. They were told in verse 15 to cast out demons and to have authority to preach and to drive out demons. Jesus is sharing his mission. That's what Jesus is doing. You have Peter the rock, James and John, the sons of thunder, which seems to describe their personalities. They were loud and boisterous and probably knocked heads with each other quite a bit. Matthew, the tax collector, the traitor, the sinful one. Simon the zealot, who was the zealot. We don't exactly know all of Simon's passions and thought processes, but zealots eventually became a group of people that wanted to go to war with Rome and were very nationalistic. And so he wouldn't have had much, you would think, much to do with Matthew, because Matthew joined Rome to collect taxes from the Jewish people. And so you had this diverse family, this diverse group. And we know, especially in 2020, that it can be hard to stick together. It's difficult. It's messy. Jesus still does this today. He chooses to share his mission with messy, broken, opinionated people like you and me. We're not perfect, but our mission is still the same. Very important. We get to go and to share the good news that God is for you. God has come, that one day all things will be right. Do you have ears to hear? Do you have eyes to see? Mark chapter 3 will continue tomorrow. Any questions, you can send them my way to dave@linwoodcovenant.org. I'll leave you with this blessing from the book of Numbers with Moses and Aaron. This was given to those 12 tribes. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. Be well, my friends. We'll see you tomorrow.